Today, we're kicking off a five-part series on guilt-free impulse spending. And we have to start really simple. Like, why do we impulse spend? Make sure to stick with me though, because this is like Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. It all builds. So, here we go. Welcome back to another episode in the Your Money, Your Life podcast. Today, we are kicking off a series on guilt-free impulse spending because there is a right way to impulse spend. You should be impulse spending. Yes, we're going to get to all of that, but we have to start at the basics, at the core. Before we dive into that, though, I want to make sure I let you know there is a PDF guide that goes along with this. So if you are somebody who is visual and likes to be able to go back and reference that, you can grab that. That link is going to be in the show notes below. It's aimeecerka.com/impulse. But let's talk about why we impulse spend. And since we are kicking off a new series, I feel like this is a really good time for me to kind of introduce myself. Maybe you're new to the world. Maybe this is the first time like you're hearing me. We need to know like who the heck is this person, all those things, right? So let's go into a little bit about that first. Who the heck am I? I'm a money confidence coach helping you to make money simple. But I wasn't always this way. I wasn't always here. And we only have to start with like growing up, even this was showing up. So maybe you're like me. Maybe you feel like things constantly have been a struggle. And I have felt that through most of my life and even like silly stuff. For example, math. My brother was really great at math. It came easy to him, and I made decent grades, but I had to work for it. And I remember like just being so upset and being frustrated and telling my mom like it's just not fair. It comes easy to him and I have to work for it. It's such a struggle for me and I don't like it. And I carried that with me to the point that I was in the insurance industry. I was a very young single mom. My eldest was born a couple days before my 18th birthday, and I had started out in a new industry because I had to be able to work when my son was in daycare, right? Ended up, I was in insurance, um, life and health insurance originally, and then was working for an agent with State Farm, doing all the insurance things, auto, home, banking, life and health, all those things, and I loved it, but I wanted to be there in the everyday moments for my family. So it was about the same time that I started my entrepreneur journey, and I started with a network marketing company that was focused on personal development and financial literacy. So I was working on myself, improving who I was as a person, improving my skills at work, conflict resolution, sales skills, getting crazy raises at work. But the goal always was to be able to be there with my family, right? So then I had met and married my husband. We were 3 months pregnant with my second and made the decision that I got to leave my job. I was going to be home, that way I could spend time with my oldest before the baby was born. I was dealing with a lot of morning sickness, all the things, right? And there was some craziness that happened there. We had a business deal go bad with my husband's trucking company, and we went to zero income over 3 days and then took a 50% income cut when we figured something else out. So there was already like struggle and like struggle. Yeah, we'll just stick with struggle. There was already struggle going on, but when my son Wyatt was born, he was a full-term baby. We didn't know anything was wrong. The pediatrician came in to do their check on him there at the hospital. He turned purple on the table, and they took him back to figure out what was going on, and he had something that's called esophageal atresia with a TEF fistula. So his esophagus wasn't connected to his stomach. He was transferred over to the local children's hospital at less than 48 hours old, had his first surgery, and was in the NICU a total of 7.5 weeks. And we had years and years of therapy later, feeding therapy, learning how to eat, all those things. But during that time in the NICU, the 7.5 weeks in the NICU, I was able to be there with him the whole time. I left to take care of myself and to spend time with my oldest, but I was able to be there with Wyatt when it really counted. But it was during that time that I created a story that I had failed my family because I hadn't hit the income goal that I had set. But it was never about the income goal. The goal always was to be there with my family when it counted, when they really needed me. I mean, the everyday moments, yes, but when they really needed me, I was there. But I had created a story that I had failed my family. And it wasn't something that I realized until years later working with a coach that we were able to uncover that. And that story that I was telling myself We can get into all the self-sabotage that happens there with the money mindset and all those things, and we're gonna talk about that through this video or through the next couple episodes of this series. But that moment, and of course, there's been crazy stuff that's happened since then, but that story, that belief that I created there is the reason why I focus so much on creating unstoppable finances now. And the reason that we create unstoppable finances is because we know that something's going to come up. It's what do you do when something happens? When the stuff hits the fan, what are you going to do? Are you going to get knocked down? Are you going to stay stuck? Or are you going to get back up? If you're going to be unstoppable and you're going to keep going, and you're going to know without a shadow of a doubt, you're going to be okay because you have these things in place. It's not gonna stop you, it's not gonna affect you, it's not gonna scare you as much because you know that you know that you know that you are unstoppable. Okay, so now that we've introduced myself, let's talk today about why do we impulse spend? Okay? Surface level, like, what is impulse spending, okay? Impulse spending is purchasing something that you weren't planning on. This can be, like, a wide variety of things. This can be buying a candy bar at the grocery store that you weren't planning on, the checkout there if you're going in and doing that. This can be impulse spending, maybe a food that's not on your grocery list that you're like, "Ooh, that looks good." We've had, like, whole series that we've done about not going grocery shopping while you're hungry, but hey, we've all done it. This can be going to the gas station, filling up, and running inside, grabbing a drink, grabbing a snack, whatever, grabbing fast food when you weren't planning on it. This could be browsing like an electronics store and end up that you come home with the TV, or you like go window shopping looking at vehicles, and then all of a sudden you're buying a vehicle. There's a very wide variety of things, okay? Amazon purchases, Facebook ad purchases, doesn't matter the price point. When you're impulse spending, you're buying something that you weren't planning on. Okay. So now that we know what it is, why do we do it? And at its core, like simplify it down, we impulse spend because of emotions. And this is what we were talking about last week, that we can't necessarily give you always a cookie cutter thing because our emotions are unique, or we all experience the same emotions, but why we're experiencing the emotions are unique to you. So there are four main ways that we see these emotions show up. The first one is like retail therapy, type thing. There's this trauma involved, these thoughts, feelings, emotions come up, and then you just have to go spend. Now, these are really past experiences. You have the thought, the feeling shows up. This is all done subconsciously. You're not even aware of it. We're just working on autopilot. And we're going to talk a little bit about like how to identify those things here in just a minute. Because there's really three things, three key reasons that I see show up. The second one is a feeling of I deserve this. You're working hard, you're doing the things, and you deserve to take care of yourself, right? So then you're like, I deserve to go do the spa day, or I deserve to go do this, or I this. And whether or not it's true, there's a justification there, and that can be your impulse spending, like emotion trigger. And again, this is information. This is not guilt. This is not shame. We are creating guilt-free impulse spending, right? But we have to understand why we're doing it to be able to create that guilt-free impulse spending. And the third one is you just buy it because it was a good deal. It's that like, oh, I have to. It could be because you want to save money. It could be because there's FOMO, fear of missing out going on. But it's like, oh, it was a good deal, so I had to buy it. Okay. So our emotions are what's triggering the impulse spending. What is causing those emotions? A lot of that comes from our money mindset. And your money mindset is your thoughts, feelings, and emotions around money. Okay. And majority of the work that we do inside Money Mastery Academy is this. Like, I give you all the step by step, the set up the budget, set up all these things, your debt payoff plan, those things. But it's the mindset work is the part that or we definitely never arrive with when it comes to creating unstoppable finances. Like, you'll set the budget up, and then like the hardest part is the initial setup. So we have to talk about the money mindset that comes there. The ongoing work, that's where we have to continue to work on our money mindset. Okay. So, what the heck is your money mindset? Like we said, thoughts, feelings, and emotions around money. Your money mindset is formed about By about the age of like 7 to 9, there's a little bit of discrepancy there between the experts. But regardless, I don't know about you, but I did not have life figured out by about the age of 9. I was raised by humans who are flawed. Like, I am flawed. We live in a fallen world with craziness, media affecting us, all those things. We did not have life figured out. So we all have these stories. And it's not even about the circumstances, okay? Because you've probably heard this story. So there was, let's say you got two brothers that were raised by an alcoholic, and one of them becomes an alcoholic. And one of the sons, yeah, one of the brothers becomes an alcoholic. And he'll tell you, I had no choice but to become an alcoholic because my father's an alcoholic. But the other one is like athlete driven, doesn't touch alcohol, any of those things, like a very quote successful person, air quotes here for the podcast listeners. The and you can ask him and be like, well, I didn't have a choice because my father was an alcoholic. So the circumstances were the same, but our perception was different. And that's the part that we have to work on. Because if we're just limiting ourselves and you're like, I'm not going to spend and I'm going to do a no spend challenge, we're not getting to the root of the issue, the mindset portion, our thoughts that we've created to create the long term success and long term be able to have the guilt free impulse spending in the right way and doing it correctly. All those things, we have to address the core root. All right. So, your action step today, I want you to start to think about and uncover what triggers you're aware of. What causes you to want to impulse spend? Okay. Maybe it's something your parents said growing up around money. Maybe you're one of the retail therapy shoppers and you just don't know why. Maybe you have the like, well, I deserve it feeling. Or your parents, maybe they were frugal and you were like, I don't want to be like them ever. Or I heard a story recently that somebody shared that um, her parents did the envelope thing, right? And she was like, I will never do that. I will never do the envelope thing. So there can be, and because of it, she knows that she has a tendency to be a spender because she wants to avoid being like her parents. So there's two sides. Like if you want a lot of, you can emulate, there we go, emulate your parents and do what they did. Or you can go the other way and be like, I am this way because I never want to see what my parents did. Maybe your parents did really well for a while and you made good money, but you saw them lose it all. And you saw the fear and the struggle that happened. And you're like, I never want to experience that. A lot of us create fear of success that way. Or maybe they made good money and they didn't make time for the family. The relationships were suffering. So you're like, if subconsciously, if I make a lot of money, I'm not going to have good relationships. So then we, again, self sabotage in that way. Regardless of what the circumstances are, again, it's your perception. There's no guilt about what you experience. There's no shame. There's no judgment, any of those things. So I want you to figure out, start brainstorming at least. If you know, fantastic. Send me a message on Instagram at Aimee Cerka. What triggers you to want to impulse spend? What resonated from today? Regardless, this is day one. Make sure you stay tuned. We got 4 more days of this. I'm not going to leave you empty handed because you deserve to be unstoppable. Today, yeah, we covered what impulse spending is, why we do it, the core reasons, and your action step. You're working on what are your triggers, and sending me a message on Instagram, letting me know what you've uncovered. You can grab that guide again, aimeecerka.com/impulse. That's what we've got for now. We'll see you next time. If you're struggling with shame and guilt around your finances, whether it's debt, impulse spending, mistakes from the past, or the fact that you still haven't hit your income goal, then it's time for you to work with me. There are different levels of support and price points that you can use on the path to removing that guilt and shame so you can step into your unstoppable life. After all, your finances are unique to you, and your support should be too. Go to workwithaimee.com to get started with one of my most popular programs, or you can book a Q&A call with me and we'll figure out what that next step should be. And those links are hanging out in the description of this video as well.